Hello, my absolutely beautiful Taurus friends, and welcome to your horoscope for 2025. Where Taurus, this year we've got Uranus moving out of your sign into the vibration of Gemini. You have been shaken and stirred enough, but what it has done for you, Taurus, is leave you with this vibration where you have been significantly shifted. Many gems and jewels and talents and skills and fears and all of these things that you didn't know made up that next layer of you have been absolutely revealed to you, and the bones of what you were trying to build by learning that were good in 2024, but they're a lot stronger in 2025, and you'll have different ways of being able to do that. So Taurus, I think that we've got a very interesting year coming up, and I look forward to not only breaking it down for you, but Taurus, just like my beautiful cup of coffee here, you know, we're Tauran, we have to have a little snack together. This horoscope for 2025 is built for you to be an experience. I want you to have an experience with it this year. We have 5 expert astrologers breaking down all the different areas of life for you so that you can see exactly how this is going to impact you. And I encourage you to listen to this year's forecast like a podcast. Take one astrologer section at a time and really let the energy sink in, get all of the juice out of what they're saying and see how this applies to your life. And then of course, at the end of the year, come back and tell us how did things unfold. So I've got lots of goodness for you locked into just one video. The timestamps are in the description box down below so that you can check out me doing your general and giving you the transit energy. Sama's going to be giving you financial. Rachel Lang has got you with relationships. Kira Sutherland is here with your medical, and Tiffany Harelik is back to give us a beautiful breakdown of spiritual development. That's all in the description box down below. And Taurus, before we jump in and see what 2025 has to offer, if you do not already have your 2025 digital transit calendar, click in the description box down below. Let those transits come to your phone so you can see every single day what is the active transit that is happening. It's a great way to not only learn your astrology, but to live your astrology. And also, if you are ready to learn astrology, make sure you click down in the description box down below or come to stormiegrace.com and get signed up for either the Astrology 101, the 102, or the 103 courses that are available to help you actually learn astrology, because the best astrology is your astrology, Taurus. Okay, let's jump in here and let's see what 2025 has to offer for you. Now, first of all, Taurus, coming into 2025, like I said, Uranus is moving out of your sign, moving into the vibration of Gemini. So the way that you approach yourself, the way you approach your values, the way that you're going to, as Uranus is going to move into that Gemini energy, the way that you approach your resources and your finances are going to be really, really different. Uranus is going to show you that you can innovate and do something that you had no idea that you could even do. And this means it's a great opportunity for you to grow your assets, whatever assets those are, the asset of self-worth, the asset of actual financial benefit. This is a great year for you to do that because you're going to challenge the traditional structures that have been set up around you. You might be like, I don't want to do that way. Or you're seeing Uranus, a new way to imbibe AI, technology, groupings of people to really allow this area of yours to expand. Now, we're also going to see that Saturn and Neptune are going to move into the vibration of Aries, so lighting up your 12th house space. Taurus, for you in 2025, this is really the story of letting go of outdated behaviors, beliefs, ideas that don't work anymore. You're going to start developing your mastery over a really intuitive approach to your life. And I do think for many of our Tauran friends, you may find yourself on a brand new spiritual path of some variety or doing something that brings a spiritual tilt to what it is that you've got going on. So absolutely plan to adopt these things and bring them into your life, okay? Now let's take a look date by date what is going on. And remember, I will be with you every week, every month, every day on Instagram throughout 2025 to break down to even smaller aspects that are happening. Now, starting out, we've got Pluto traveling for 2025 fully in the vibration of Aquarius, and this is going to light up your 10th house space. Now, first of all, the theme here with Pluto is transformation. You started to see how this area of your life, your career, your reputation, your soul level calling, what people know you as in public, this started to transform. You got taste in 2023. Then Pluto backed out. Then we got more of a taste in 2024. And now, as we're going to travel in 2025, this entry is about profound shifts in your professional identity. It's profound shifts in your public reputation and identity. And Pluto is still Pluto, right? So whatever it is, it's not just death and destruction. It doesn't mean that this is the year you absolutely have the fall from grace in your career. It's all snatched away. Your personal astrology will tell us more about that. But Pluto is also empowerment. Where have you built something or developed something at a deep level, and now you're going to be able to be known for that? You're empowered, you're known, you move to that VIP level, and this lasts you for years to come, right? Even if it's step by step by step that you've been building it, especially throughout 2024 when those bones were good, and now in 2025, it's getting there, and it's powerful what it is that you're creating. And it will bring powerful, powerful change into your life. Now, if you find yourself, Taurus, with this Pluto energy, you're questioning yourself. You're questioning these traditional structures of even what you thought was success or what makes someone successful. If you're questioning these, that's a good thing. Because what you're essentially seeking to be empowered in is how you want to do it. What is the authentic way that you want to embrace making money, carrying your reputation? Now, Pluto is still Pluto, so there is some struggle that is a part of the Plutonian dance. And it's not just the struggle to slowly build something, Taurus, but it can be the struggle with, yes, I'm ready to question these old, outdated structures and ideas, but sometimes the struggle to outgrow or to die off from authority can be a real challenge, especially if the authority is a story you've been telling yourself about what you're allowed to have, who you're allowed to be, whether or not you're smart enough, good enough, know enough, valuable enough to be the one teaching instead of always being the learner. Whatever it is, Taurus, this transit is about empowerment. So I'm going to encourage you all year long as we travel with this Pluto in Aquarius to embrace it. Embrace this change that is coming to you in a very public way and allow it to push you deeper into what it is that you really value and how you want to deliver that value to the rest of the world. Now, Pluto may also be changing your social group. You may decide, Taurus, this is what I really value. And that pushes you into a different grouping of people who are like-minded like you are, but away from an old grouping of people who you don't align with them anymore. This is a time of redefining for you. So don't be afraid. If that career goal is outdated, if that old group is outdated, feel free to let it go. All right. As we're also coming into 2025, we're coming in with the brakes on. Mars, our planet of doing, of going, of what I desire, what I'm motivated to work for. It is retrograde in the vibration of Leo as we come into 2025. Now, as we come in, Mars is lighting up this retrograde in your fourth house space. So home, family, real estate, properties. So all of this reflection and all of this slowdown is really going to be in your domestic zone or around your home, maybe a renovation project, things having to do with your family, your emotional growth, feeling like your own house is in order. It might be a bit slow because remember that Mars here retrograding through your fourth house, Mars is still Mars. Mars is happy to bring tension wherever it needs to be or conflict for the sake of resolution, right? Something, maybe there's a familial tension that's been going on and there's some cutting away or burning away because Mars is in a fire energy and Leo, some burning away that needs to happen in order to address the poison that's in the familial system or that's in issue. So if there's something that's been going on in your home environment or there's a project and you're like, I've been needing to finish this project for 2 years, the Mars retrograde will be a great time to be getting it done because it's pointing backwards. But even better than that, I think that the Mars retrograde is going to do a lot of work for you to help you burn away old familial patterns that are not working anymore. They are not valuable. They don't do anything to help you process and move forward with life. And I think that you're willing to not surrender your external energy, right? You're like, I can't put my energy and my time and my joy into this anymore unless it's going to breed really good value for me. It's not going to be a drive and a motivation anymore. Now, we're going to see that Mars is going to continue that retrograde and been pushed back into the vibration into Cancer. And this is going to be happening January 7th. So this will light up then your third house space. So the third house is about siblings, close neighbors, your neighborhood, where you're in the vicinity to. Everything having to do with communication, having to do with learning, having to do with your networks, having to do with books. Maybe you're writing something, you're writing a book, you're writing a blog, you're writing that website. Maybe you're taking a course. There's a lot of learning that goes into this third house space. So now as Mars moves this retrograde back to this third house space, first of all, it's coming back to how you communicate. Okay, how are you communicating in your everyday interactions with people, even down to how are you emailing? Are you being efficient? Are you being effective in that particular energy? Are you being compassionate and caring and nurturing? Are you using words that bring security into your conversations? Now, another thing that I think happens here, because it's the third house, Mars may be bringing you back to a very old conversation that you had. And Taurus, there is nothing to say that this can't be an old conversation with a family member, with something around housing, because we just saw Mars come back from that fourth house space. Whatever it is, it could be coming back to it, especially if this was an area of tension or an area of some kind of dispute. So, did you have a fallout or something with a sibling or a neighbor some time ago, or you were going to buy a house, but the sale fell through? Whatever that is, this is a time where Mars being retrograde here could certainly bring that back to your attention, and it's time to be working on it and working it out. Okay. Now, I do want to say again that during this really introspective Mars retrograde time, you have to remember that Mars is still Mars. So instead of having this old conversation and being like, okay, I understand, I'm motivated, let's take all the action right now, that might not be the best thing for you to do. Mars can still act really impulsively, even if you think you're bringing a solution to something from the past into the present. So just take your time with whatever solutions and pieces of information that Mars is bringing to you. Now, as we get to January 11th, we are going to see the true North Node move into the vibration of Pisces and Virgo. We're going to start that Pisces-Virgo axis here in 2025. Now, for you, this is going to be lighting up your 11th house space where that Pisces energy is at, and your 5th house space where that Virgo energy is at. So as we're going to do this dance this year, first of all, the North Node is taking us to the direction we're supposed to go, right? Where is our destiny journey taking us now? So in the area of your friends, your social groupings, social media, aspirations that you have for yourself, being connected to those groupings of a tribe or like-minded people. The North Node in Pisces is really taking you this direction, but likely these people too would be wrapped in something very Pisces. It's a spiritual group. They have a higher ideal. Something like that would be what the call is. Now that South Node on the other side, being in Virgo in your 5th house, is going to be giving you this urge, Taurus, to release the perfectionism. But perfectionism where? It's going to be with your children, the 5th house, children, romance, pleasure, play, joy. How do you interact with joy? Maybe a creative hobby that you have, or a way that you've been wanting to express yourself. That South Node is going to be like, you're being too critical. And there has to be this intersection. We want them to come to an intersection. They're both good. We want them to intersection, but there's too much Virgo. There's too much, it has to be perfect. It has to be like this. And instead we're looking to release a little bit more to that Piscean areas where we say, okay, it's imperfect over here, but I'm going to trust that the universe has got me sorted. So in this space, I think a really great example to think about this in your life is you have Virgo South Node children, and they're going off to college. And where are they going? To the North Node, Pisces, right? And we don't know what yahoos are up at college. What friends are they going to have? But there has to be a joining of the energies so that we're able to really advance with this energy. So embrace your opportunities as we experience the node and the nodes and the eclipses all year to work with groups. Work with groups that are maybe just a little bit different than you, but they resonate with the idea ideas. They resonate with the spiritual concepts, with the creative concepts that you have. Let go of your need to be in so much control in this particular area, and trust that the universe has built that little seed inside of you to bloom, because it's calling it out of you at this particular time. Okay, as we get into March, we are going to see that Venus, your ruling planet, is going to step into a retrograde, and it's also going to be in this Aries energy. So back in this 12th house space for you. Now, Venus retrograde, first of all, is very personal. We feel it because Venus is close. And when planets are retrograde, they are like closer to the earth. So then again, we really feel that energy. They're burning brighter. We see them more, right? So this is going to be some intensity. And it's about, in the 12th house space, revisiting hidden feelings, revisiting, past loves, past lovers, past values, past ideals, past self-esteem, past relationships, past behaviors, past spiritual practices, especially behaviors or practices that were helping you live your best life. Have you strayed away from them, or are you releasing them? There's going to be questions whenever Venus gets involved about worth, self-worth. What are you deriving your self-worth for, and are you connected? So as Venus takes this retrograde here, in the matters of love, self-worth, and creativity in this 12th house space, this is a time where you're working on this review behind the scenes, right? Nobody's just coming into this house. They're not coming into this space with you. You have to invite them in. So you may be having a season all the way until April that's a lot more reflective. And you're like, no, please don't come into this house over here. It's under construction. Let me breathe. Let me think. And what you're really doing is giving forgiveness, bringing transformation, bringing transition, bringing culmination to things from the past, so that you can shape your new self-image and your new ideal as Venus is going to move forward into your sign out of that retrograde. But it can't be done until you resolve some of the things from the past, okay? All right, just behind that, we are going to see on March 14th that we're going to have a full moon lunar eclipse, and this one's going to happen in Virgo in that 5th house space. So at the full moon, you're going to be asked to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. And this is a resetting, Taurus. So you're going to get a reset to this area in your 5th house where it's like you've really been needing to be in a lot of control. Things have needed to be perfect. They needed to look in a certain way. There's been blockages to this particular area for you, right? But this is an opportunity at the eclipse to release old energy, release old habits, release things that have been hindering you from sharing your self-expression. What do you really think? What do you really feel? What's the truth here? And maybe in places where you've been afraid, Taurus, because you are ruled by Venus, you're like, let's just keep it cute, right? And maybe you've been needing to say some things, but you were worried about being criticized or having that judgment put on you. And this is going to start to sweep that away, and we're going to see what Taurus is underneath that. Now, for some of you too, in the 5th house, this will be things regarding children, changes to this area where maybe you have to take the death grip off the kids and not expect them to be so perfect or be so much in control, but see where you can release the reins to let it grow, let them grow just a little bit. Okay, at the end of March on the 29th, now we're going to have a new moon solar eclipse, but this one's going to be in Aries. Okay, so this is back in that 12th house space. But at the new moon solar eclipse, you're being eclipsed, so something's being reset in the position, but you're planting your seeds of intention to begin something new. So really big and I think important new beginnings in your spiritual development are happening here, especially because we traveled all of 2024, Taurus, where you were really working on this Aries area. You were letting go of the places where there was too much codependence going on the Libra side and saying, if I want it, I need to go this direction, right? It's a lot more Aries. So I also think that one of the things that you're healing with this last new moon is this place where you have the courage to step into your own self-awareness, who you are today, current version, not who you've been, not who you want to be in the future, but who are you now today in this current version, and live within yourself more deeply because of that. Right? It's a really profound energy. I think that it will wipe the slate clean on so much karma, bring up so much dharma that you get to live out as we're traveling through 2025. Now, big news when we get to the end of March as well. Neptune moves into Aries. So the 12th house is cracking. That's what I'm saying, okay? But as Neptune is going to move into Aries, first of all, your spiritual sense, your intuition, these things are going to start to get a lot more heightened, especially Taurus in that 12th house place. Because Neptune's presence here is going to bring you Aries-like focus to your inner life, to your inner world, to the things that you keep secret behind the scenes, to the things you're doing behind the scenes, spiritual awareness, maybe people in your life, even who are in specialized populations, maybe they're in rehab, maybe they're in jail, maybe they're an elderly person or a baby, or they have some kind of special need. You know, what does it bring up for you around spiritual growth and development, however that presents itself to you? But this influence for you too is, even though you're moving like an Aries, the Ariesness about this transit through your 12th house is like massive compassion. You know, instead of seeing Aries as just the warrior going out there with the sword and the fire and we're here to win, right? It's still going to be Aries. But think about Aries with like a beautiful sort of forgiveness and compassion. And as it moves through the person or the situation, it is leaving just swaths of healing, swaths of surrender, swaths of release. And we also know that in another version, in the Roman version, the Aries energy was seen to be a sacred gardener, right? Out trimming and digging and cutting away what doesn't need to be there. You can inspire compassion and a next wave of forgiveness, not only in your own life, but Taurus, as you're coming out this year, I'm telling you, I really think we're going to see you sharing in a very big way these messages of change, of progress forward with others as well. When we get into May, we're going to see Saturn now move into Aries, okay? So listen, I'm telling you, the 12th house is going on. You've got some karma cleanup to do. You've got some what's going on in the back room to be looking at, Taurus. But as Saturn is going to move into this Aries vibration, first of all, it's about restructuring. So for some of you, flat out, I do think that there is something that brings you to the space of a spiritual experience. And you are likely following or needing to follow some kind of structure that gets your attention. Now, in the 12th house, one of the things that gets our attention is loss. So what's happening? What are you losing? Who's going? Who's changing direction? But it's not about the losing, right? Because you could also be losing the weight of resentment, the weight of critical judgment. You could be losing the weight of working through fears and limitations that have really been holding you back about your own identity. And Taurus, again, so many of you, you have something big and powerful and profound to say, but you don't say it because it's like, let's just keep it cute, okay? So Taurus might not be keeping it as cute. Taurus, you may be also having a time as Saturn comes here into your 12th house space about setting those boundaries. Boundaries. And they're not just boundaries to the outside world, they're boundaries within yourself. And this idea and this remembering that boundaries are not about keeping people in or out. It's just about saying, here's how we're going to participate, even if you have to set those for yourself and with yourself, because that's the space where in that discipline, there's healing and there's growth and there's development. So think about putting in things like regular meditation, some kind of regular spiritual practice, something that helps you build a really strong spiritual foundation and intuitive foundation. And some of you might be doing very practical Taurus things. You are building a spiritual retreat that we will all love to come to because you will have the best snacks. When we get to June, we see Jupiter moving into the vibration of Cancer, an energy you're very friendly with. And this again will light up that third house space that we saw Mars traveling through, bringing your review of how you're communicating. Now, as Jupiter comes here, learning. This is a lot of learning. And this is like a lot of learning, but it's also, I think, Taurus, a lot of talking at this time. You are talking, you are making decisions, you're signing those lease agreements, you're buying that house because this is Cancer. You're making decisions with your mother, your parents, your family. You're signing on for that renovation. You're teaching that class, you're teaching that course. Maybe you're teaching about the moon. It's very Cancerian energy. But whatever it is too, you're also going to be drawn to more connections that are really deeply connected in that nurturing kind of energy. And I think you're going to do brilliantly with it. Now, when we get to the 15th and the 19th, we see Jupiter not only in a square to Saturn, but then we'll see it in a square to Neptune as well. And we are going to go deeper into these transits as we're traveling through the year. But the thing you need to know is that the tension and the conflict that is brought up here is about your daily interactions. Someone is getting on your nerves on a daily basis. And as soon as you put those boundaries in place and learn those lessons, you won't feel as challenged. That's going to be a great way to work with that, because there's this thin line between compassionate and being a doormat. And I think you'll get to practice this under those particular transits. When we get to July, your Uranus moves into Gemini out of your sign. Woo, woo, you did it. You made it. You were shaken, not stirred, and you look good while you were doing it. I love that. Now, as Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to light up this second house space for you, and it is going to encourage you to take unconventional approaches to your money, to your finances, to your self-worth, to how you make money, to who you align yourself with to make money, how you manage your resources. This may be the year, Taurus, where you get on that stock market and you ride that thing on up. Right? This can be the year where you launch that program and you sit in that millionaire mindset. This could be that year where you see that the true value of what you want to offer has nothing to do with anything financial. It has to do with showing people about their value. This could be the year of any one of these things that are truly of value to you, but you're likely going to go about getting it in a very different way. As we get to the end of July, Saturn and Neptune are now together in that actual conjunction in Aries. And this conjunction is going to encourage you to ground your spiritual practice. You've got to be grounded in the vibration of the universe and your intuition. And when you do that, you will be able to straighten out mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, but something will call you to ground into your intuition and into a spiritual practice in order to be able to move forward. In September, we are going to see a full moon lunar eclipse. This is happening in Pisces, lighting up that 11th house space. So going to be asking you to end, acknowledge, or adjust. Maybe there are some friends that you made along the way, or some groupings you were a part of along the way. And now this particular lunation is eclipsing. Some of them are falling out. You're falling away from them. You're going, this is not actually the best arrangement for the long-term goal that I have for myself, or it brings clarity to the connection and why you're in it. It brings clarity to where you are affiliating with people. So think about affiliate marketing. This is a great year for that as well. And as we are going to close out the year, we've got our last massive transit that's going to be happening, which is a new moon solar eclipse back in that 5th house in Virgo. So as we are going to approach this new moon solar eclipse, you've got creative expression on the mind, on the heart, on the lips. And you're going to want to bring it out. Romance on the mind, on the heart, on the lips. A different arrangement and understanding your children, right? What's going on with and around children. But the bulk of this is going to be about having to find a new self-expression and plant your seeds of intention to really bring that forward. This is a transit that is about creating joy and receiving it and basking in it. So make sure as you are looking at this 5th house space, especially at the end of the year, set your goals to explore your joy, your passion, your rest, your pleasure, and allow that to bring you a lot of fulfillment, Taurus, as you move through 2025. All right, my beautiful friends, let me pass you over right now to the beautiful, beautiful Rachel Lang, who is going to take you all through your relationship experience for 2025. And like I said, I'll see you every day on Instagram, every week and every month right here on YouTube, so we can walk through all of the transits and the changes that are coming for 2025.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Astrology of 2025 for Taurus, with a focus on love and relationships. I'm Rachel Lang, and I am so excited to be sharing with you the astrological signatures that are going to define your year. So let's dig right in. So Taurus, I just have to say that you are coming to the end of a larger cycle with Uranus moving out of your sign. And Uranus is making its way out of your sign. It starts to dip into Gemini this year. And that is going to really open up a sense of grounding for you, a sense that things aren't just as in flux as they've been over the last 7 years. You've been on a roller coaster ride, and your relationships have definitely felt it. These are so you're coming out of it. You're not quite out of it yet. This is one of those years where you're just tidying up the loose ends. You're finishing those periods of transition, and you're really getting ready to settle into a new normal next year. There's a lot of shifting currents this year, and there's relationships and personal growth takes the center stage. Several outer planets are moving signs between now and the beginning of 2026, including Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Pluto made its way out into a new sign, into Aquarius and out of Capricorn in 2024 for its final time and entrance into the 20-year cycle in November of 2024. And so you can imagine, with all of these outer planets changing signs, that there has been fluctuation, and which isn't always easy for a Taurus. You're a fixed sign, earth sign. So for you, having a sense of knowing what's coming next, of knowing what your routine is going to be, that is important. Knowing that you're in a committed, loving relationship or committed relationship, even if it's not loving, knowing that there's some predictability to it, that you can manage a day-to-day life with someone, that is important. And over the last several years, it's been hard to really feel that sense of I'm exactly where I need to be, because there's been so much influx. So a lot of that reaches a conclusion this year. And these are the major signatures for the year. We have Venus retrograde, we have eclipses along the Virgo Pisces axis line, which is going to color the experience that you have in your love life. We've got Uranus moving into Gemini, shaking things up in terms of having you think about your confidence and self-worth and what you prioritize and value, and maybe even making some financial changes. And then it's moving back into your sign, which is a time when you're reflecting, did I make the right changes? Am I going in the right direction? And so this is one of those years to hang on to the roller. If you're on a roller coaster ride, there's the bar and you just hang on, or you let your hands up and you enjoy it. And so those are the two choices that you have in your relationships this year. We also have Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries, and we'll talk about each one of these as we go forward. But I want to get to just the very start of the year. So we start the year with Mars retrograde. And Mars goes retrograde until February 23rd. And I know that's not specifically on this sign, but Mars retrograde is a time when we're all moving a little bit slower. And Mars is going back from Cancer, from Leo to Cancer. And so Mars retrograde motivates you to really to finish up projects that you're doing with your home, to get settled, to create a sacred space, or maybe even do some cleaning of your home. And to think about the ways in which your home life nurtures you. And relationships definitely play into this, especially if you're living with a partner, if you have a family with a partner, because it's everybody becoming aware of what doesn't work so that we can make new systems for what does work. And that happens as Mars goes back into Cancer, and Mars finishes its retrograde journey in Cancer in February. So that's when you're doing the chore sheet and you're delegating who does what. It's also a time when you're probably reflecting on your neighborhood and seeing, does your neighborhood support your relational goals? Are you living somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where you're not meeting anybody? If so, then it might be some time to change and think about what kind of local community would best support your relationship desires. Do you have couples, friends that you can hang out with? These are the kinds of questions that you'll be contemplating at the beginning of the year, and that carries us into March. March is one of those hot spots this year. It is one of those times when there's a lot of astrological movement, a lot of energy, and it starts with Venus, your ruling planet, going retrograde. Venus goes retrograde from March 1st to April 12th, and it is a pivotal time for reassessing your relationships. And in particular, you're reassessing your desires in relationships and maybe even some friendships, because Venus is oscillating between Pisces and Aries during that time. It stations in Aries and it goes backward to Pisces, and it touches the eclipses on its way. So we have Venus retrograde, and at some point in March too, we have Mercury retrograde, and we have two eclipses happening on that, with the North Node in Virgo and the South, or North Node in Pisces, I'm sorry, and the South Node in Virgo. And those are relationship points for you. They relate to any of those earth signs, relate to different people in your life. They also, that one in particular, Virgo, relates to how you experience pleasure and beauty and love, how you engage with romance, or do you avoid romance. The South Node moving through Virgo actually asks you to put a spotlight on the way that you express yourself romantically, because it's not where your focal point is. The focal point is more with that North Node placement, which is in Pisces, which relates to how are you using your life, your gifts, your work to make a contribution? How are you belonging to a community and to a social structure, to communities, groups, friends? And so there's a real recalibration of focus, that if you don't prioritize romance, then all of your energy could be going in a different direction. And that could have some implications for your partnership. If you're in a partnership, if you're married or in a relationship, you want to just be conscious of that and make time. So Venus retrograde, Venus is the planet of are we enjoying ourselves? And when Venus is retrograde, we tend to not enjoy ourselves as much as we could. So you have to also really prioritize having fun, having a good time, being with your partner in relaxation. It could be a very busy time, just with all of these astrological signatures happening all at one time. There are some questions that come up during this Venus retrograde. Are you being filled emotionally in your partnership? Are there imbalances in your relationship? You might question whether you're prioritizing pleasure over meaningful connection, or whether you're compromising too much to keep the peace. But there's overall a sense of looking at the spiritual nature of the relationship and asking, can we go deeper? And the answer might be no. And if so, you don't have to make any sudden moves during this period, even though eclipses and retrogrades tend to make everything feel really urgent. I know you're a Taurus. You don't want to just leave. You don't want to just cut and run. And so give yourself permission to know what you know without feeling the pressure to make a finite decision right away. You can give it some time. Really ease into anything. Those eclipses in March, and that same goes for if you are pursuing a relationship or if you want to be in a relationship. The feeling of loneliness could be more pronounced as we move through February and March and early April. You could really reach your limit with being single. But just remember, there's usually a miracle that occurs on the other side of reaching your limit. And that reaching the limit point, that rock bottom point, can be an opening for a shift in vibration that allows you to attract your love. I see this all the time. I've been doing this work for decades, and I see this all the time. Right when you get to that point where you're like, I can't take it anymore, then bam, something changes, and it's you. You've changed. Your consciousness has changed. And so that is the hope with some of these influences. So those eclipses they mean business. These are eclipses that highlight some of those relationship questions. And in particular, the lunar eclipse on March 13. This one shows some emotional culminations, emotional realizations, like I am unhappy, or I want more, or this person doesn't see me. And so that period brings clarity to relationships. and they're clarity to things that have just been brewing beneath the surface. Then the solar eclipse on March 29th happens in the sign of Aries, and it's a revisiting of the eclipses of 2024 that were so much about relationships, between that dichotomy between self and other, between that sense of individuation and that sense of togetherness, interdependence. And so this eclipse brings up any frustrations that you had in October or September of 2024, or in March or April of 2024. This is a closing of those chapters. This is the demarcation of that. Those challenges are over, and you're entering a new framework for your relationships. There could be breakups. There could be people getting together or getting back together. We have to remember Mercury's retrograde from March 14th to April 7th. And with Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, it would not be out of the scope of possibilities for someone from your past to come back into your life in a significant way, shake everything up, and have you questioning everything, but take things really slowly. We don't want to rush into anything when we have Venus retrograde, when we have Mercury retrograde, and coming off the heels of Mars retrograde. Here is that lunar eclipse chart for March 13th, and that we have the moon in Virgo. We have the sun right next to Saturn, making us very aware of what sticky points we have in our relationships. We can see the ways in which we're limited by the compromises that we make in our partnerships. And so this can be frustrating. You also see that Venus is in Aries. Venus isn't the happiest in Aries. And so here we have again the sense of things aren't going my way. But what do we need to do to change that story, to change that narrative? That's where Mercury comes in. It's then how can I change my mindset to accommodate for my desires? How can I change things within myself to make relationship changes, to make the kinds of changes necessary with my own self-love and my own self-worth to be able to see those reflected in my relationships? And here is the solar eclipse. And this is a very interesting one. So we have the sun and the moon in Aries, Mercury's in Aries, and we've got Chiron, which is a dwarf planet that relates to healing, moving right up to Eris, which is Chiron's a planetoid. Eris is a dwarf planet. And so here we have the unrealized desires and dreams, the unhealed points of pain in our lives. If we don't shine a light on them and look at them, then they can create ripple effects of discord in our lives. And Chiron and Eris are moving close to one another. They do meet up this year. And so this is one of those underlying stories that's going on beneath the surface, affecting everything else. Neptune at the end, Neptune and Venus and the North Node are all right there at the last degrees of Pisces. And so here we have a lot of endings, and it's endings with compassion. It's endings with compassion for yourself, first of all, but then also how can you resolve conflicts? How can you let go of physical stuff? How can you let go of relationship dynamics, or maybe even relationships that you've tried everything in it and there just isn't any kind of forward movement or any kind of growth? I have a cat climbing in my lap right now. And so this is what we need. We need some snuggling. We need some tenderness for our hearts. This is one of those very heart-centered lunations. With the Aries, I've got to do what I need to do. And sometimes that Aries influence can be a lot of act first, think later, or it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And so you could see a lot of people in your life just doing what they want to do, and don't take it personally. This is the catharsis that comes with those Aries eclipses. So it's not a time to settle. It's not a time to compromise your need. This is a time when you can establish boundaries. You can say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to help someone who seems to be constantly taking advantage of me. I don't want to be the rock for people who aren't doing anything for themselves. It could also be deciding to pursue a different path in relationships. So it's an empowering eclipse. It says, take charge. Mercury is retrograde 3 times in fire signs this year. And the element of fire is going to be one that is the driving force for what we're thinking about, for how we're moving because of that Mercury retrograde, because of those Mercury retrograde cycles. So the first one happens from March 14th to April 7th. Then the next one happens from July 17th to August 11th. And then the final one happens in Sagittarius from November 9th to November 29th. The one to really spotlight for yourself is the one in November. That one is happening in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius can be a restless, unsettled sign for you. There's not a lot that you have in common with Sagittarius. It's a fire sign, you're an earth sign. It's a mutable sign, you're a fixed sign. It's actually across the zodiac from you almost exactly. And so this is one of those retrograde cycles that puts a lot of pressure on you to define what you want and what you need based on those relationships, on the people in your life who are asking things from you or the people who have needs from you. So it introduces this sort of tug of war of self and others, plural. And so this could also just be a time when it's the holidays. And so family obligations are picking up, or you're trying to figure out who to entertain or who to have over for the holiday season. Things getting busier as you're decorating for the holidays. And also that Mercury retrograde in July and August can bring some shakeups in the home and with family members. Shakeups just, oh, we're revisiting this thing that I thought had closed. And maybe it's an estate, or maybe it's your partner's office space renovation. So there's some of that just unsettled energy happening in the home. It's important to just remember that we can have misunderstandings, we can have miscommunication during Mercury retrograde. The big events of the year have to do with Neptune and Saturn. Neptune enters Aries on March 30th, and Saturn follows on May 24th. And Aries is a sign that reflects the innermost seat of wisdom within you. It is the hidden aspect of yourself. It's the sign right before yours. And so there's a lot of spiritual awakening that's taking place with these two ingresses. Neptune and Aries can inspire a sense of idealism, and especially in love. But it can also cloud your judgment, making it difficult for you to see the reality of a situation. So just be cautious not to fall into fantasies or illusions of your partner or about the potential of someone in relationships. Saturn is a helpful influence. It's grounding and stabilizing any kind of dream or fantasy that you have about a relationship. Saturn in Aries wants you to be intentional. It wants you to be practical about the future of your relationships. And it can be more of an individuated sign. So if you've been thinking, I need to break up or I want to leave this relationship, Saturn in Aries can actually motivate you. It can help you to detach from any feelings of guilt associated with that. Or it can also help you to really take a leap of faith and express your love for someone. So this is a combination that is powerful. And so it's about laying bricks to stabilize the dreams, to build your dreams on. Jupiter moves through Cancer from July 9th of 2025 to July 29th of 2026. And the influence of Jupiter in Cancer really grounds your relationship in a domestic life. It is your day-to-day chores. It is how you set up your house. It is how your house nurtures your relationships. And it's also how you communicate about the different functions and activities of your home. This is one of those transits that highlights delicious food, nurturing yourself and your partner, being nurtured in your relationships. And so this is one of those times when you can really secure an emotional foundation. It's also, I think, favorable for building community in your in your neighborhood, or making any kind of moves to orient yourself to a new area that maybe supports your relationships or supports you in finding someone. You might find yourself spending more time at home with your partner or with your family, connecting with your neighbors, deepening those emotional ties with your loved ones. Jupiter in Cancer is also excellent for thinking about your home space, thinking about remodeling it, moving in with a partner, creating a home that feels like a true sanctuary. Uranus enters Gemini. And like I said at the very start of this recording, yay, this is going to be a relief for you in many ways. But Uranus is still hovering between the cusp of Gemini and Taurus. And you can see here those pivotal dates. So Jupiter first entered Taurus in May of 2018, and it moved back and forth until November, I'm sorry, of 2018. And so from 2018 to 2025, actually 2026 is when it fully moves into that new sign. It's been occupying your sign, and Uranus is the planet of sudden change, unexpected surprises. It's the planet of progress and freedom and that pioneering sense that we have of what we can create with our lives. And while Uranus has been in your sign, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride for you, with changes at home, changes in relationships, changes with your career, with your finances. It's allowed you to shake up the aspects of your life that were stagnant or that were stuck, and to move in a new direction. Or if you weren't able to move in a new direction or to make the necessary changes that you wanted, then it could have just been frustrating to feel stuck and to know that there's an urge for change. And so this all culminates this year when Uranus rather enters Gemini from July 7th to November 8th. That's a brief period of time where you get a reprieve. And that's when you can start to see how to adjust to, if you've been stuck, that's when you can see how to make a change. When we have Uranus strongly represented in our charts, we can have a little bit more courage to create endings and new beginnings. Uranus is giving you now an opportunity to really prioritize on the self-worth and personal value, spiritual and emotional learning to do in order to feel freer in your relationships and in different areas of your life. Freedom is actually a really big theme for you this year and early in next year. So April 25th of next year is when Uranus goes fully into Gemini. And that's when that change starts. And Uranus is going to be in Gemini until 2032. Then we have eclipses in September. And the lunar eclipse on September 7th and the solar eclipse on September 21st, these put a spotlight on your relationships. And so these are another big influence for the year. They illuminate the balance between caring for others, taking care of yourself. Bernadette Brady in Predictive Astrologer writes that this Saros series appears to be concerned with the bringing to the surface of long-term worries about loved ones, health, or issues to do with paperwork or communication. This could manifest as a worrying piece of news about a loved one or responsibilities with paperwork coming home to roost. And so there's a sense of fatedness. There's a sense of destiny with any kind of news that you have about the people that you care about or about your own health. Health is one of those big features with the eclipse on the 21st in particular. And so here we have the love and we have the spirit of love very active. It's a very demonstrative love with Venus in Leo. Venus is in a favorable sextile aspect with Mars. And so we have some openings for connection and relationships, but eclipses can really put a spotlight on the changes that need to happen in a relationship. And so they can bring up the uncomfortable tension that we have. And if you look over to the very left of the chart, you'll see that Chiron and Eris are conjunct, and Chiron is moving back toward Eris. And so we have that as a spotlight for this influence, for this lunation as well. So there's a lot of healing that's present. This is the sign of Pisces, the sign of Virgo, are both all about healing and compassion, and also about really letting go, being willing to let go of dreams that didn't culminate, letting go of the crush that you have been daydreaming about and finding out during this time that it's just not going to happen, or it's not practical, or of falling in love with someone who might not be exactly what you thought they would be, or what you had fantasized about in a partner. Then we have the eclipse on the 21st, and this is like one of those highlighted moments of the year, because look at all of those planets between 28 and 0 degrees of signs. That's a lot of instability. That's a lot of shifting currents moving. Like, we're wanting to be in the new chapter, in the new cycle of our lives, but we're not quite out of the old cycle, the old chapter. And this is especially potent for you in relationships, in friendships. So friendships that have that, like, are we more than friends? Are we not more than friends? If you've been dating, there's a lot of clarity about, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. Getting frustrated with the dating process and with dating apps in particular. And so here we have one of those moments of finality. I will not do this thing that I've been doing anymore. I know where I want to go. I'm going in that direction, but I have to leave something behind. And so be willing to leave behind. That kite aspect pattern says there's a lot of movement, but there's a lot of tension with what we can't take with us. And then we end the year in a gentler place. The year ends with that grand trine aspect on November 17th. It's the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And so this brings a sense of healing, a sense of stability to the relationships, and a sense of peace between you and your loved ones. And as we enter Capricorn season, we really ground and settle a lot of in our decisions that we've made. There's still a lot of fluctuations all the way until later in 2026, when those planets, those outer planets, are fully into their new cycles. There's a lot of movement, a lot of flux, but the year ends with this feeling of we can rebuild. We can focus on long-term goals. We can take practical steps toward creating the life we want with our partners. And the sun enters Capricorn on December 21st, and it really lets you end the year with a grounded, relaxed vibe. And here is a mood board for you that helps you to just have a visual reference for what this year is like. It is it's romantic. It's tense, but it's romantic. And so when you're coming together in really remarkable ways. When you're not, it can feel like really painful or really frustrating. So there's a buildup of emotions either way you go. It's a time of introspection with all of those retrogrades. It's a time of freedom with Uranus changing signs. And it's also a time to prioritize the relationships that are friendships. And that could be an entry point into love if you're single. So there you go, Taurus. That is your year. What do you think? Pretty amazing, right? Yes, it's going to be incredible. You're going to walk out of 2025 feeling alive in all ways and feeling like you really took charge of your love life. So thank you all so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing more about this. Please feel free to leave comments. I'll be checking underneath this video, and feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to hear more, or if you have any questions. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Taurus. So, on January 11th of 2025, the North Node will enter Pisces in your 11th house. This talks about friendships, social networks, and your longer-term aspirations and goals for your life. Now, the financial impact of this for you guys is going to be group investments. There's opportunity here. So being drawn to collaborative financial efforts, such as pooling resources with friends or investing in a social cause that you care about. For example, co-investing in a startup or a partnership in a tech company that benefits the broader community. These are the types of investments that could be lucrative and also towards your values that you care about, beneficial for you in the long term. Charities, philanthropy. With Pisces in the 11th, you might feel the urge to align your financial goals with these causes that you care about as well. So a little bit of a tithe kind of vibe here can be useful. Donating a portion of your earnings to charitable organizations, working in such organizations. Either it doesn't even have to be financial investment. It could be just spending time volunteering or being a part of such businesses that promote social change. This could be where the energy is shifting for many of you. Now we want to be careful with idealism, okay? Because Neptune's influence on this house warns that idealism can cloud some financial decisions in social groups. So we don't want to be in any culty type of too good to be true situations where we're giving 90% of our income to, the next Charles Manson or something like that, right? We want to be mindful of entering into group investments that seem too good to be true. So watch out for the crypto pump and dump schemes, because crypto will be picking itself up in the first quarter of 2025, or any promising ventures that don't seem financially stable in the long term. You want to watch out for those. Okay, so if these are friendships or networks or groups that you know and you trust and you've worked with them already, that's great, because the North Node can again bring some kind of mysterious energy that's a bit foggy, that takes a little bit of time and clarity to really disseminate and understand. So just be cautious there with Neptune, that we're not seeing things with rose-colored glasses. Okay, that's going to expand as Neptune conjoins that North Node in your 11th. So this is where unconventional financial opportunities will likely increase in February. So this can bring opportunities to again invest in creative or humanitarian projects. So any startups focusing on renewable energy, I have a friend who has a company where they found a biodegradable version of a product that would replace plastics in the world. So something like that, where social enterprises can really change the game for humanity and our health, let's say. But Neptune talks about, again, we want to be careful that we're not over idealizing these opportunities, putting a bunch of money into the whole too good to be true types of situations. So group investments and trust are a big theme for the first 2 months for you guys. Any social circles where trust and joint ventures can be an issue, well, as long as these people are trustworthy, then it's all, green lights ahead. But if they're not, or you don't know these people very well, you might be tempted to join into an investment that a friend is proposing, saying, hey, this has worked out in the past, I want you to come in. Just make sure there's transparency to avoid any disruptions to your own personal financial situation. Okay. And we're going to have, towards the end of February, Mars moving direct in your 3rd house. This talks about communication, siblings, short-term travel, and your local environment. The financial impact there talks about negotiating contracts with such people, places, and things. So renegotiating contracts or loan agreements related to transportation, whether that's getting a new vehicle or changing your vehicle, making upgrades to it, or changing how you commune around your local neighborhood. Mars energy allows for assertiveness in obtaining better deals in that situation. So if you need a new vehicle, Mars could be helpful there for you, Taurus. Real estate for siblings. If you have siblings, joint investments in a shared property become relevant. Such as helping them buying a home or co-owning a family business. Or this could be even with long-term friends, people you grew up with, or people you know closely who you consider to be like a brother or sister. Doesn't necessarily have to be blood related. And this could also be the expansion of a small business or the beginning establishment or moving forward with a small business if you were working on these things, let's say towards the end of 2024. Mars can provide energy to small business ventures related to how you communicate, maybe changing your marketing materials, opening a social media profile, or getting some ads locally put on, the local buses or trains or things like that. These are things that can offer the potential for growth if you are assertive, if you're Martian about these things. Then we move into March, mid-March, where we have the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. Another thing I'll say with Mars in Cancer is that local travel opportunities where you're commuting back and forth could have been what you've been up to really since towards the end of 2024. even busy moving around in that little area that you're used to. This could even involve a lot of activity with nieces, aunts, uncles, siblings, getting a lot done here. Think back to what you've been doing towards, let's say, mid 2006. This could be similar energies, especially if you quit a job or change some situation related to where you were living, a rental situation, ending a lease. Basically, because Mars is in a square to the nodes here, there's something that you need to let go of that could really help you financially if you are allowing yourself to create space for that, particularly towards the end of 2024 and the beginning in Q1 of 2025. Okay, so then when we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, this is going to be your fifth house of creativity. This is going to relate to children and speculation. The financial impact of this Taurus is that you can experience a transformation in any creative ventures here, particularly as it relates to speculation. So if you have a strong fifth house, you might notice that if you are one who invests in stock markets, that your portfolio is actually doing pretty well around this time, generally speaking. Okay, especially if you have a side business, let's say in the arts, the entertainment, or fashion industries. This could see big shifts, either expansion or dissolution, particularly if you have a portfolio around a lot of those types of assets. Okay, something's getting eclipsed here, but it's a full moon lunar eclipse, so something's coming to either to fruition or disseminating to be ended here as it relates to creative ventures for you in your fifth house. This could look like investing in your children's education if you have kids, or investing or putting financial projects around any hobbies or things that you're really passionate about that you want to see develop. This could start an education fund for them, or one for you if you don't have kids. This could also be the end of speculative investments. Okay, so if you're familiar with my work and maybe you've seen some of my content, then you know that March is going to be an interesting period to, let's say, take profits from financial markets. So for some of you guys, this might naturally affect some of you guys where it's the end of taking investments for you guys. You're taking money off of the table. You're marking the end of an investment of high risk ventures that you may have started earlier. Okay, now again, this is the fifth house of projects and creative speculation. So it might not just be your portfolio, this could be a project not even related to the stock market, but just a creative venture that you were putting energy into, that you were passionate about, that you might see coming or concluding to. If it's not yielding results, it might be the time to pull out of that and get into something more stable, or it might just be the end of you putting in effort and actually seeing it bloom to fruition. So that lunar eclipse is going to be a very good reflective time for you to see what's going on with your fifth house and how things are blooming, if at all. Then we have Saturn entering your 12th house in Aries at the end of May. This talks about your subconscious, your hidden assets, and areas of isolation for you. From the financial perspective, this talks about long-term savings. Saturn wants to encourage cautious financial planning at this time. So if you've been a little lax with your budget, especially in the first quarter of 2025, now is the time to tighten up and pay attention and do some review here, particularly as it relates to hidden or isolated areas of your money. So do you have secret saving accounts that you're keeping away from a spouse, or do you have money in a jacket you forgot about on a lower level, but like private investments, crypto wallets, things that aren't as tax, let's say, savvy, that your local government might not be aware of. If you have property or investments in other countries or things like that, this can be a good time to set aside funds for that, or even to start establishing such funds for the long term or any unforeseen expenses in the future. So focusing on retirement planning as well is another version of this. Focusing on financial security later in life with Saturn in the 12th supports disciplined savings for the future. So this could look like opening a 401k or a Roth IRA or one of those Bitcoin or Ethereum IRAs, these new ones that are now available to regular consumers, or even getting into infinite banking or things like that. Okay, now there's going to be some hidden liabilities that you need to look out for because this is the 12th house. So you need to be aware of any of that, such as any forgotten debts or unforeseen expenses. Saturn encourages you to face these things head on now so that they don't creep up and be issues for you later. Then in June, Jupiter is going to enter Cancer in your third house. This talks about communication, siblings, and local travel in your local environment. So how can we expand business with our communication is the question here. Jupiter's expansion in the third house wants to support growth in things like communication, working with siblings, working in your local environment, working with media, social media, getting in your car and moving around, and just traveling within your country. So if you're in the United States, taking short flights maybe to New York or Texas or Austin or wherever you need to be in order to further things as it relates to your business. Okay. Or investing in media or a podcast or boosting your online presence, getting on different, networks or interviewing more. Okay. Helping out siblings financially or being helped by siblings financially is going to be a beneficial energy with Jupiter and Cancer from the middle of the year all the way through to the first and a little bit of the second quarter of 2026 with Jupiter and Cancer. This is also supportive in the third house with Jupiter here of learning and education investments. So are there courses you want to study, languages you want to learn, either by taking up short-term courses for that year or funding even a child's education? Consider investing in learning materials or online courses that can boost your career or things that you personally care about, because Cancer is a patriotic personal sign. This could be about your kids or about your local community, your family, your heritage, things that you care about. Now we have Uranus in the Gemini in your second house in July. Second house is about finances, personal resources, and self-worth. So we can see sudden changes in income because Uranus brings sudden changes. Unexpected changes to money can be here. So if we've worked on savings, like I talked about a couple of months ago, we might be prepared for any downside activity if your chart's being affected that way. But hopefully we're seeing an increase here. This could be a sudden job promotion, new business opportunities, or unexpected financial gains through technology or innovation, especially if you've invested in these areas. Innovative investments will likely do well, particularly cryptos, fintech, AI. But again, Uranus brings a lot of change. So expect volatility here. Don't expect things to just move up in a straight line and, stay profitable here. There could also be sudden expenditures, sudden spending. That's the flip side of Uranus and volatility. So this transit could bring financial growth. It could also bring sudden spending or unexpected expenses as well. So be prepared for those with your financial situation. The second house talks about the mouth or the throat, maybe potentially getting sick or having some surprise dental work. I hope that's not the case, but just keep an eye out for that. This is in Gemini, so this could also be related to the lungs. Hopefully none of you need this area opened up or anything like that, but just take care of your health around that time and look out for sudden volatility or changes there. Then in September, now we have the new moon and full moon eclipses in Pisces and Virgo. So to begin with September, the full moon eclipse in Pisces talks about social networks, friendships, long-term goals. Any unexpected changes in social finances or groups or investments need to be looked out for here. This eclipse can bring a culmination in that. So these are things that we gotten into in the beginning of the year, or if we have any 8th house investments, that because this is squaring the 11th, or anything in terms of your portfolio, we might see a resurgence. Like I mentioned, fintech could be doing well in July. This could be a time to kind of revise where portfolios are or any group investments or projects that you've made. You may decide to withdraw from a group investment or to restructure your involvement in any social ventures just because of what you have going on in your life. You might have helped out a group or volunteered a lot early in the year, and this might be time to pull back as your energy or the things that you're doing with your long-term goals are now being eclipsed and you're turning away from that potentially for some of you. Others of you might be making, let's say, some emotional decisions as it relates to your financial decisions, which we generally want to be careful with that. Pisces can be very emotional, so it really depends on the condition of Jupiter or any positive, ideally positive aspects related to the Piscean part of your chart. This eclipse highlights the need to separate personal feelings from any financial decisions. Okay. And if this is a particularly deep, crunchy situation you're in and you need to book a session with me, these are things where I can look at your individual energy and kind of help talk you through whatever you might need. And then towards the end of September, we have a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo in your 5th house. This talks about creativity, children, and speculation. So the financial impact here is going to be encouraging new beginnings in speculative adventures. So some of you might be looking at the creative sector or any new projects or companies to actually get involved with, or maybe even starting a new business related to entertainment, art, or media. These could lead long-term favorable results for you guys. Planning for your children's financial future can be useful here as well with the 5th house energy if you have children, or maybe even planning to have children for some of you, depending on how that looks in your chart. So saving up for that, if that's what you're looking into, or even starting new financial initiatives for your children, whether that's saving up for a college or a project. Maybe they want to start piano lessons, or they want to go to medical school. This relates to Virgo, or whatever that might be. This is a great time to establish trust funds or long-term financial plans for them, or to start budgeting things and planning for that. So this year overall talks about opportunities to grow wealth through disciplined planning, real estate, creative ventures, and collaborating with people, and being careful throughout certain points of the year of volatility and making sure that your savings are in a good position to handle that volatility. So a lot of these houses emphasize long-term gains as long as you're careful about managing your money in 2025. And with that, should be a good year for you, Taurus. So be well, one love to you, and peace.
Hey everybody, Sutherland here, and I have the great pleasure of doing health astrology for the year. So we're on to Taurus. So what is in store for my gorgeous Taurians? It's a big year. There's a lot of changes, and change isn't always what you're the biggest fan of. So we have a lot of planets changing signs. So I just wanted to tap into a few of the transits occurring and drawing your attention to it. Now, Taurus is notorious. Shall I say that? Taurus has this beautiful constitution. Be you a Taurus sun, moon, or rising, or lots of planets in Taurus. But especially for the Taurus rising or the Taurus sun, this is a sturdy constitution that can really push forward. But the problem is with strong constitutions, we often aren't really tapping in and listening to what's going on in our body. So for this year ahead, especially with some of the transits I'm going to go into, it's a really good year to make a commitment around one or two things that you've been thinking or planning on doing with your physical health and actually initiating them. We start, and the way I want you to play with this, because I know Taurians want to think about what they're going to do and then they plan it for a little while. So the way I want you to enter 2025 is we're actually starting the year with a Mars retrograde. And Mars is our action and our doing. And I often talk about Mars with sport and physical activity. So you don't have to start the year off hard and fast. That would be uncomfortable. What I want you to do is take that Mars retrograde that's happening in Leo. So it is happening in another fixed sign. And I want you, it'll be there for, I think it's January 1st till February 14th or thereabout, depending where you live in the world. And that's a great time for you to reassess how you are doing your physical movement. What it is that you love. Is it weights? Is it gardening? Is it walking? Is it running? Do you want to do an endurance sport, which doesn't actually have to be fast? It's just endurance and steady. But I want you to really think about and take actions towards getting ready to do some of those commitments for the year, because this is also happening. The retrograde's happening in Leo, which also has some rulership, all the fire signs do, around physical activity in the muscles. So I really invite you, Taurus, to kind of have a think about and plan and be practical over those first few weeks. You don't have to start hard, but get yourself going with what you're going to be doing for yourself physically. And then you can also use each of the retrogrades that happen later in the year. There's a retrograde in March, April. There's another one in the middle of the year that's happening in Leo in July, August, and then another one in November. And use each of the Mercury retrogrades. I was talking about Mars originally, but the Mercury retrogrades as okay, I'm going to stop pushing, assess how this has worked physically, have a think about it because it's Mercury retro, and reassess and do a little bit of a shift to make it better and a more lasting habit. Once a Taurus is going and in love with what they're doing physically, they're great at it. So I really invite you in this year to do this, especially as we have Saturn currently in Pisces, gonna take a big dip into Aries for part of this year and then back to Pisces again. But again, that's so, Saturn is about physical structures and form and structure and laying down foundations. Yes, it's about restriction and underfunctioning, but I'm going to take the positive spin on it for now. And with it moving into Aries, it's really grounding it and manifesting it into all of our physical bodies, but especially because this is basically a few years before it hits Taurus, it's a great time to be doing all the groundwork of how you want your body to be feeling. I'm actually talking over 3 years now before it kind of hits you. I think I've got that right. It's time to really lay that groundwork now, and the benefits by the time Saturn hits Taurus will be amazing. The other really big transit I want you to be aware of, I mean, it's big for us all. There's actually two for you that I want you to think about, is Uranus, which is currently in Taurus, is shifting into Gemini from July to November. It will dip back again and then go all the way into Gemini, but Uranus having been in Taurus for quite a while, it's intense for you. That's this electrifying, fast planet that rules spasms and twitches and electricity and unusual things. It pushes the buttons for Taurus, and you get a little bit of a break of this. But Uranus through Taurus enables you to make radical change. And again, with layering what else I've talked about this year, is there radical change? Is there change you've wanted to do that you haven't initiated yet? Because Uranus and Taurus allows you to do this faster than you normally do, and making some big shifts, especially thinking about Taurus. It's metabolism, it's throat, it's thyroid, tonsils, this whole shoulder area. But also think about the other fixed signs, be it detoxification systems, which we'll talk about in a minute anyway, cardiovascular systems, circulation. Is there radical change you want to be doing with these systems? This first 6 months of the year is really the time to go after it. So I do invite you to try to do change a little bit quicker. Plus, last but not least, Pluto, which has just moved back into Capricorn for its last little bit, is moving forward into Aquarius. Now, what's this got to do with you? It's square, right? It's moving into another fixed sign. So that's going to be that Pluto is now squaring Taurus for a long time. Pluto is that deep change from deep within. It's genetics, it's DNA, it's detoxification, it's elimination. So again, we've had all these other things we've talked about, and then you use Pluto, making these changes this year before it really lands hard into Aquarius. You're already set up for this deep internal change with Pluto in that square. So I just think it's this great year to really do some amazing stuff before, the energy of Pluto. I mean, it's a long time, like 15, 7. I haven't looked at how long it's in Aquarius actually, but it's going to apply by that square, just that little bit of pressure and friction over the next quite a few years. So again, making the adjustments now so that friction can actually be used for making some other great changes. I hope that made sense for everybody, with and just some bigger picture things to think about. I actually think the transits for this year and you are going to be pretty amazing, and I hope you really enjoy it. So talk again another time.
Hey Taurus, welcome to your 2025 spiritual development forecast. My name is Tiffany Harelik. It is my honor and pleasure to present this to you today. So before we get started, I want you to hop into the description box and look for the link for all of your 2025 horoscopes. They're in a PDF. I have them printed out. So while you go get that downloaded, I will tell you about the numerology. So while that's downloading, the numerology overlays with the astrology really, really well. So 2025 is a 9-year in the numerology. So the 9 years represent closure, completion, something that's coming together, tying up loose ends, and integration, right? And so that's an integration of all that you've been learning and processing and picking up along the way for the last 9 years. It's kind of that karmic boomerang with all of the seeds that you have planted. We're now harvesting the fruit from the last 9 years. And so this is a year of beginnings within endings. It's a year of processing big changes. And it's a transition year for sure. And so 2025, 2024 was an 8. That was a bigger year for risk and reward. It represents the infinity symbol. This is a 9-year where we're integrating, wrapping things up, and closing chapters, right? Next year in 2026, it'll be a 1-year, and that'll be a fresh new start, time for something new. So hopefully you've got your PDF downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get this presentation started, this party started for our Taurus friends and Taurus placements. One more quick thing, if you use the code Stormie 2025, you'll get $10 off the digital astrology calendar. It has all of the planetary ingresses, transits, the lunations, the moon family cycles. You can see that all of the dates for each of the moon family cycles. When the moon goes void, of course. It has all the eclipses, retrogrades, and everything you could want. Let the universe have your back this year. It works on any platform and it travels with you through all of the time zones. And use code Stormie 2025. Okay, so for you, Taurus, what we're going to look at is the planets in spiritual development. We're going to do a quarterly breakdown with some songs that I've picked out for you, and then your major theme for 2025. So the planets in spiritual development are a little bit different than just normal astrology. I like to look at Mercury as our mindset, and our mindset is everything. We could look at something as a problem or a challenge or a blessing, and it changes the whole tone. Mercury represents our nervous system. And so if we are making decisions in fight, flight, fright, or freeze, the quality of our decision changes, right? It becomes more distorted. And so understanding your Mercury and the way that you think and the way that you learn and receive information is a total game changer. Venus, yes, it rules love and money. It's your planet, Taurus, right? Venus rules Taurus. And so it's not just about love, it's how we spend and receive our energy, right? Which can be expressed as love and money. But this is going to be a fun study for you as we go through the year here. Mars helps us write our spiritual mission statement. Jupiter represents our faith and how we understand the world. Saturn, our discipline. Uranus, our spiritual network, that group of people that support us. And especially when we get crazy, right? My mentor says, fortunately, we're not all crazy on the same day. Neptune shows us what needs to dissolve, what we need to let go of. Pluto shows us our subconscious mind, that gold that we don't always have access to that just comes up. And then Chiron, right, it represents our wounded healer and our master healer. In spiritual development, the moon represents our intuition, our psychic abilities. I've got a great product for you called 40 Days of Spirit. That's one email a day that helps you understand your psychic abilities. If that interests you, great. But the moon overall shows us how we receive information from the metaphysical world and what we need to feel emotionally secure and safe. The nodes represent, there's the north node that represents what we are eating and chewing on and digesting and reaching for and embracing. It's the head of the dragon. And then the south node represents what we are eliminating, letting go of. And the nodes change signs in January, which is going to be a big shift. So what's staying the same is Pluto will be in Aquarius, and we will have 4 major outer planets changing signs, right? Which this spring and summer it'll feel like a whole different energy. So let's go through it together. The first quarter for you, Taurus, is really about spiritual introspection. And so you might find that this first quarter of the year, things are a little bit slower. You're more internal. You're looking inside. You're still hibernating a bit. There is a song here, a lyric that says, "So don't let someone find you until you find yourself." And I thought that that was a really good way of looking at the first quarter of the year, Taurus. So if you are hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, that's halt. You stop, you pause, and you want to find yourself first before making big decisions, especially when it comes to love and money. I mentioned the nodes are changing signs, and so that they're changing from Aries, Libra, me, we, into Virgo, Pisces, which is the mental health and physical wellness pipeline, right? Pisces, the spiritual side, Virgo, the practical side. We are finding balance between those two poles. We are trying to embrace the positive themes of Pisces, right? Compassion, spirituality, being in flow, blending, all of those beautiful sides of Pisces. And then we are trying to eliminate the challenging sides of Virgo in this way, right? So we're not going to be overthinking. We're not going to be overly critical. If you find yourself overanalyzing, working too hard on something, trying to control someone, but calling it help, right? Anne Lamott says that help is just the sunny side of control. Or if you are fading. So in my lineage, fade is fixing, arguing, defending, and explaining. So if you get caught in the web of fading, just check in with yourself, right? Why am I doing this? Did anybody ask for my help? Is it disturbing my peace? Is it creating distortion? Am I trying to fix something? Am I trying to play God? Or am I embracing the situation and accepting things as they are? So this is your North Star in a lot of ways, leaning into your Pisces side. So Taurus horoscope, right? I want you to be finding new friendships, new alliances. This doesn't mean that you have to let go of your old friendships. Maybe you're reconnecting with your friends in a new way, but finding a way to really connect with like-minded people, especially your spiritual groups. And this is such a huge anchor for you this year, now more than ever. I already know that you're a spiritual being and that you have a cool home group or life group or spiritual development group. But I want to encourage you to incorporate that Pisces spiritual side of yourself in all of your conversations, right? And that Virgo service side. So where am I being of service in my community of friends? Now you can release all of those perfectionist tendencies. You don't have to do things right. You don't have to do them perfectly. You have to do the next right thing, not the next thing right, especially when it comes to your day-to-day routines. So I want you to have grace with yourself, radical grace with yourself, and radical grace with others. A huge defining moment of the year is that Saturn is going to get really close to Neptune, and we're going to track this right now and through next year when they're close together at the end of Pisces, and then also they will be conjunct in 0 degrees of Aries. And so this is a tight friendship that they're walking the line together. Saturn and Neptune energy is very, very different. So this first quarter of the year, you're going to start to feel like the duality of that. Saturn is reality, Neptune is fantasy, Saturn is boundaries, Neptune is no boundaries, right? Saturn is facts, Neptune is propaganda. And so we have this opportunity to start seeing discipline within our spiritual pursuits. Spirituality becomes serious business, and integrating, right, the 9-year structure, Saturn, into our spiritual side, Neptune. So Mars will be retrograde as we start this year out. It will go direct in February. I know that with Mars retrograde in Cancer, backing up into Cancer, we'll see a lot of people that are having internal conflicts, mood swings, not able to access their fire, not sure what they're frustrated about, irritable, restless, discontent. This isn't a gloomy forecast, but it's an awareness forecast. So if you see, the children in your life, or the bosses in your life, or the friends and sisters and brothers in your life that are having some frustrations, accessing their emotions is going to be a connection point. So you can work with people to say, I wonder how you really feel about that, right? I wonder what's really below that. For you, Taurus, right? So this retrograde cycle is falling in the area of communications. And so you might find it challenging to have really honest communication. Are you being honest with yourself first? And then you'll be able to express what you're truly feeling. So because it's that communication house, it also falls, excuse me, in alignment with your siblings and in public schools and things like this. And so your siblings, your neighborhoods, there might be some frustrations or some weird news that comes out or some flyers on the doors, things like this. So again, your medicine here is to focus on yourself, to not get lost with the milieu of like all of the news that's out there and available to distract you. This is an introspective time this first quarter. And journaling or reflecting on your past hurts, right? Things that really gotcha with the Mars will help you, will be beneficial. So journaling and reflection, introspection. Now, Venus is your ruling planet, and Venus is retrograde. Right as Mars goes direct, Venus goes retrograde, and then Mercury goes retrograde. So Venus retrograde acts like a little mini Mars in the sky. So we've got Mars direct and then mini Mars, Venus retrograde in March. So there's extra energy. We might be amped up, hyped up about something. So if you have been feeling like things are slow or you're too inside yourself, this will be a month where you might kind of come out of your shell or out of your cave for a little bit. The retrogrades help us redo things, reevaluate, resolve, recharge. And it goes from Pisces into Aries, right? And so we want to reconnect with old friends. We want to redo our finances. Those are things that are good things to do during a Venus retrograde period. Rebudget, rework the boundaries of your friendships, things like this. And then what not to do, again, fade. We don't need to fix, argue, defend, or explain because that takes us into conflict. But we don't really want to change our appearance. We don't want to make big, drastic financial decisions, and that will help you stay anchored. So make this a deeply introspective time for yourself this quarter. Pay attention to unresolved issues in your friendships and your social circles. Now, I mentioned that Mercury was also going to go retrograde, and that Mercury represents our nervous system and the quality of the decisions that we're making. So as this goes back through Aries Pisces, that spiritual introspection theme is still really prevalent for you. So you're just making some adjustments, right? Mercury is a great time to edit, redo, revise, recycle, restructure. What? Yourself, Aries, and your boundaries, Pisces. You are going to be reconsidering some of the things that are really the meaning of life, right? Like the mysteries of life, your spiritual studies. Now, in March, we have two eclipses. On the 14th, the full moon lunar eclipse is happening, let's see, in 23 degrees of Virgo. And so we start this Virgo Pisces mental wellness health continuum. And so Virgo represents our service. It also represents the way that we work. And the eclipses give us a power surge or a power outage. And it shows us that we're going to have too much or not enough of something. And so you don't need to freak out if either of those things occur. You do want to have a reality check when it comes to your health, yes, but your health and your routine, your day-to-day routine. So for you specifically, Taurus, right, this is going to fall in your house of creative projects, romantic life, children, fertility, creativity. And so this could be a time when you are tapping into your inner child or health things that are coming back up from childhood for you. This can give you a new opportunity to present yourself differently to the world. You might be changing it, even your physical form can change as your diet and nutrition and habits, day-to-day habits change. Those are all elements of this eclipse. This eclipse, right, it's giving you more information about something that started back in September of 2023. And whatever themes are flowing through your chart with this eclipse will resolve in December of 2025. So this is the dates, or these are the dates for this moon family story. The next eclipse happens in Aries, right? And so the Aries eclipses usually come on hot and fast and dissipate quickly. It's in a fire sign, so you want to be aware of fire hazards. You want to be cautious around heated moments. This is an eclipse where people quit and destroy everything, or get divorced, or make really drastic decisions, or gamble, or do something that can be regrettable, right? Sometimes the pressure has to build for a reason and a good release, and sometimes it releases and we have regrets. So just be aware that your eclipse moment can occur 90 days in advance of the actual eclipse. So you'll know when you're having your eclipse moment. So don't let the date, don't like hold the date and just get nervous and upset about it or excited about it or whatever. Realize that your eclipse moment is going to happen within divine right timing in your own life. For you, this activates again your spiritual sector. So again, this first quarter is about introspection and getting in touch with your spiritual side, connecting with your higher power, understanding your psychic abilities, your intuition. Don't hire a psychic, become one. Understand yourself, know yourself, uncover insights about your own subconscious patterns. You might have some great aha moments around this time. And this moon family cycle is kicking off a new 2.5-year cycle that will culminate in June of 2027, which is a fascinating year to study in astrology. So as we close out the first quarter, this is the longest quarter of the year that we're going to study. Neptune moves into Aries. And so I love my friend Celeste Brooks that helped me come up with this theme of fate and free will. Isn't that like so perfect? Fate represents Neptune and free will represents Aries. Neptune is that spiritual yoga teacher in the sky. Neptune spends about 12 to 14 years in each sign, and it has been in Pisces since 2011. And this is the age of entertainment. This is the age of fantasy. This is the age of, music and all of the spiritualization of things. We saw a big rise in yoga, things like this. Now it'll be really interesting as it shifts into Aries, which is a more military vibe, a sporty vibe. It's again, of course, pioneering, trailblazing, new beginnings within our own spiritual cultures. So for you, Taurus, this is going to help you study that subconscious, deep underneath stuff. So don't avoid it, right? That's my challenge to you is don't avoid it. The North Node is in Pisces. We've got Neptune and Saturn about to move into Aries this time of the year. And so you just want to do the inner work. You want to do the work. So for me in the recovery community, that's the 12 steps. In your own religious and spiritual groups, you have your own ways of handling, right, self-discovery and understanding more about yourself and overcoming your fears, overcoming the themes that have driven you, that have motivated you, that are no longer necessary. So you want to guard against delusion and illusion and focus on your own discovery for yourself, not other people. All right, the second quarter of the year, Taurus. This is a time when you are going to be cleaning out your closet, physically and metaphysically. So this is that first quarter of the year, go deep inside, and then here on the second quarter, you might find yourself a little bit more extroverted or a little bit more in action and ready to kind of wipe things out, flush things out, and start fresh. So, yeah, this is, I was like searching for a song. What's a song about cleaning out your closet? And that's the one that came up. So I don't know if it means anything to anybody in particular, but the idea here is, yeah, it's time to do some cleanup work for you, Taurus. I mentioned Neptune in Aries, now Saturn in Aries. Saturn is like the military granddad in the sky that has order and discipline and honor and karmic returns and long-term vision. In Aries, right, is about that self-discovery and pioneering energy. We're going to see new initiatives, new beginnings, things starting that are new advances, new developments, right, in what? These Saturn and Aries themes, which Aries rules the face. Saturn rules bones. So optometry, chiropractic, dentistry, elder care, wise elders, mentorship programs, things like this. And for you, Taurus, this is starting a new foundation in your 12th house of spiritual development. So you're kind of, on this, you're just in the journey this year. You're in the spiritual development. So again, don't avoid it, right? What you resist will persist. So be mindful of being too hard on yourself or staying in something that isn't working. I have a lot of lovely Taurus clients that I love very, very much. My Scorpio sees your Taurus, right? We are like water and earth and we make mud. I love my Taurus friends and clients. The idea here is that I also see them stick with something that isn't working way too long, usually related to money, right? Money or love. Because Venus is your ruling planet, right? And so this idea that you might be having a hard time with letting go of something. So just be easy on yourself. Saturn moving through this like metaphorical 12th house of yours, it shows us where we might have a tendency to be afraid or depressed. And if those are going on for you, you just want to realize that, this is a moment where things are being taken away from you so that it can bond you to your higher spirit, to your higher power, in a more real way. You know what I mean? So it's just you and your higher power. The Yoga Sutras, there's the story, one of the stories of Shiva is that if Shiva loves you very much, he'll take away everything so that it's just you and God, right? So there's nothing else in between. So the more you let go of, the more you clean your closet out, the better your connection is with spirit this quarter and always. Okay, Taurus, Jupiter moves into Cancer. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. It's going to feel good there. It's going to be there for a year. Jupiter grows, right? It's very benevolent. Cancer is about the home and intuition and mothering and nurturing and taking care of things and intuitively helping people. Jupiter shows us our view of the world, right? And so there might be some long journeys that have to do with your ancestry or where your mom came from, or there might be some travel opportunities or some legislative opportunities that have to do with women in terms of healthcare. Themes can include real estate expansion, kitchen renovation, family growth, and enhanced intuition. So Jupiter in Cancer, yes, faith and family is a big overarching theme, but for you, Taurus, specifically, conversations like this is falling in that metaphoric third house for you. So you need to be having uplifting and inspiring conversations with people. Maybe there's a new connection with your siblings, Cancer and family, right? But these interactions, this information exchange, right? If you're not receiving it, you need to bring it. So it doesn't mean, to immediately remove yourself from a situation unless you need to, but it means that if you're not hearing spirit through the conversation, you bring it. You bring the nugget. You bring the thing that will uplift and inspire, right? We don't always just get to sit back and receive. We also have to be the bringers. And so just knowing that Venus is how you give and receive energy and staying curious about that balance. Okay, hopefully that's useful to you. Now we've got Mercury retrograde in Leo. So for you, Taurus, right, Mercury retrograde is a great time to edit, to revise, to recycle, to go back over stuff, go through stuff, clean your closet. So where can we get things in order in your life without you being in control of everything, while you are surrendered to that creative force, which is wanting to happen through you? How can you let go for something even better that's wanting to happen in your life? What benefits from organization? What is feeling chaotic? That gives you a clue as to either what needs to be organized or minimalized in your life. Can you repurpose your costume, right? Your costume is what we wear, but also how we present ourselves. Okay. Now, the third quarter of the year, this is going to be a time where you shift into thinking about money and friends. Here's a Lizzo quote for you. You know you're a star, you can touch the sky, right? I love it. All right, why am I saying this? Because Uranus is moving from Taurus into Gemini, right? So Uranus is the great awakener, the shock and awe, the shake things up, the Einstein, the brilliant influence, and it's moving from your sign, which is probably a bit of a relief, into Gemini, right? And so instead of it being about your physical health or physical awakenings or your own strength and stamina and shaking things up for you, it's moving out of your sign and into Gemini, which is the sign of staying curious. Now, previous themes of Uranus and Gemini include when we had the first aerial photography. So will we see more drones? Will we see some solar eruptions like the Carrington event, which happened during a Uranus and Gemini period? Will we see educational reform? Gemini rules is Mercury, right? And so it rules the wrists and the shoulders, the lungs. Will we see like some innovation in the medical research around these particular areas? Genetics are a theme, space communication, the electric cars. We'll see some extreme weather. But for you, Taurus, specifically, Uranus is in that sign of communication and curiosity so that you will have kind of a wake-up call when it comes to your core values. And you're going to have new insights. You're going to have aha moments. You're going to need to adopt new ideas and new ways to your financial streams of income. So I want you to open your mind and brainstorm, right, Gemini, with your friends or siblings, Gemini, new ways to make money or have different financial streams of income. Be open to new ways of earning and learning. This September, there's two eclipses. The first one falls in Pisces. The Pisces eclipses tend to have a draining, watery effect. We had one recently in 2024 where the headlines were all like the pool's closed, the boil water notice, all of these things. There was a friend that had mold. And so I want you to be aware of that so that you can stay on top of your water health, any filtration systems that you need to put in place, and then also to be aware that it's more of a draining of energy so that you might be more tired. This might not be an ideal time for big, major plans, right? And then for you, Taurus, again, this highlights friends and your groups of people. And so you can experience shifts in your social circle in some way. You might be letting go of certain friendship groups or changing the meetings that you're going to, things like this. Let's see, September 7th is the full moon cycle of this moon family story that started back in March of 2024 and ends in June of 2026. The next one happens in Virgo, same as the first eclipse of the year. So a wake-up call with health and routine, power surges in work, too much or not enough. You're not going to be shaken. You're not going to act in fear because you are setting up your spiritual foundation for a life that's built to last. And because you took the time in the first quarter to really go deep and go inside and find yourself before sharing yourself with others. So this eclipse, I'm actually kind of excited for you. You might have more creativity. You might be more inspired. It might help you see yourself in a new way. It might bring some romance into the mix. And it's a good time to think about just how you are sharing yourself, this new self, right? You've gone through some kind of spiritual cosmic baptism earlier in the year, and now the whole rest of the year is like just up for you to choose your own adventure and how you want to present yourself and live this precious human life. So this one kicks off a new 2.5-year cycle. So it starts now, it ends in December of 2027. The last quarter of the year, October through December. This one is about work for you. So again, this shifting ideas of how I'm making money, what my worth is, what my value is. Am I being of service, or am I trying to do things my way for my own comfort? Do I trust the provision of the creator of the universe, or am I trying to control things? Here's a fun little Dolly Parton quote for you. Now, Mercury retrogrades in November through Sagittarius and Scorpio, so fire back into water. And this is going to give you a time to reconsider some things. Some of you, Taurus, might be going back to school, wanting to study something, or wanting to get advanced education, continued education in a special topic. You might be pivoting your work. You might be pivoting your career goals within your work. You might be resetting something having to do with higher education and work. You might be reconnecting with a previous boss or a previous institution that you've worked for in a new way. And so just keep your mind open. Here's your main theme, right? It's about spiritual networks. It's about your spiritual network. Because honestly, Taurus, there are mighty changes happening. Pluto in Aquarius, right? For you, this is going to have so much power when you are plugged in and connected to the right group. So a lot of times that's like who you grew up with, your network, your friend group from early on. A lot of times it's the people you connected with if you went to college or if you had a job experience, or the people that you surround yourself with, right, in early life. And so, as they say, right, the 3 to 5 people that you hang out with the most, you become. So this is a good reminder for you to check in with that and to surround yourself with the kind of people that are going to be uplifting to you, but that also you are uplifting to them. New ways of receiving energy, love, and money. That's what you're looking for within the people and the support groups. That doesn't mean that people are going to be perfect all the time. That doesn't mean 100% of the time that the people that you hang out with are just going to have the best ideals. But you can do your best, you can do your best to help each other course correct when you need to. Yeah, and I want you to understand the power of your spiritual testimony, what you're doing right now, the mistakes you're making, the things that you are stalling on or procrastinating about, the things that you feel like errors, that you're overly critical about yourself. This is you building your testimony, and it is part of your redemption story. So all of us have some kind of 12th house issue where we are a prisoner of our own making, where we self-sabotage. And the beauty of the 12th house is that it's a redemption story. So there are no mistakes. And the best way for you to navigate some of this is to surround yourself with the right group of people. Okay, one last reminder to grab your digital astrology calendar with the code Stormie 2025. Let the universe have your back. We have lots of other goodies for you this year. Again, I'm Tiffany Harelik. If you'd like to connect with me at tiffanyharelik.com. Of course, I'm on social media, Wise Skies Astrology, because the digital calendar is Wise Skies. You can get your free horoscope if you didn't already. I'm on YouTube. I have a podcast. I send out a Friday forecast newsletter, and I have a spiritual membership group. If you'd like to learn astrology and spiritual development, psychic ability with me, please come over. And I mentioned 40 Days of Spirit, which is an email product. Once a day for 40 days, you get some tools or some history or some cool lessons about your own psychic and spiritual abilities and how to develop them. I do offer retreats. Last year in 2024, we did Tulum and Austin, and this year in 2025, we're doing Santa Fe and Malibu. I am happy to come to you if you want a retreat leader to do yoga and astrology. So my main message for everybody always is to love each other. We are called to love each other, love God, and feed the people. So if you can do that this year, then that is awesome. That will help you on your spiritual development path. You can keep it simple. Hopefully one thing stuck out to you from this presentation. And on behalf of everybody from the 2025 forecast team, we love you. We hope that you have a prosperous year. We're glad you're here, and stay tuned for more goodies from us throughout the year. Thank you for the opportunity to do this work together, and namaste.